Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to the June 27th, 2005 meeting of the Haltom City Council. We're called to order at this time, and we will begin with our invocation and Pledge of Allegiance led by Councilmember Bill Lanford. If you will, please stand.
Let's bow our heads. Heavenly Father, we thank you for this beautiful day, and we ask for your mercy for our sinful ways. We ask, Father, that you make your love so apparent to us that we can be changed in hearts and minds and be more accepting of one another. We ask these in Jesus' name. Amen.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Well, we want to welcome all of you here this week before the 4th of July. We hope all of our citizens in Haltom City have a safe and an enjoyable holiday season. We appreciate those of you who are here in Council Chamber tonight in person, as well as those who are watching on HCTV. We move forward with our agenda, the first item being announcements and events. Mr. Muir, you want to introduce that for us, please?
Sure. Our Public Information Coordinator, Fran Burns, is going to share a couple of things with us.
Thank you very much. A week from today is, of course, July the 4th, and city offices, of course, will be closed for the day. But that evening, we'll invite everybody to come to the 4th of July fireworks display that will be free and available at the old Birdville Stadium, and there'll be parking all around the stadium parking lot and down in the old Richland Plaza area. And again, this is free and open to everyone, and it begins at 9:30 in the evening. It's presented by Haltom City along with the Quad Cities Foundation and the City of Bedford. July 7th, the library will be closed. They're doing some switching to an automated system and upgrading that system, so they won't be open to the public on Thursday, July the 7th. And then with some recent events that happened because of the water main break in Fort Worth recently on Beach Street, we were able to utilize some new things that are available on our website to notify the public of some of the things that were resulting because of that break. And one of the things being there was a outdoor watering ban. And because we can access that website from any computer that's internet capable, we can update the information going out to the public almost instantly. So we want to encourage everybody to check that website whenever there's any kind of occurrence like that so that they can be updated about watering bans and things like that. The address is www.haltomcitytx.com. And also there's another service available that if people want to sign up for automatic emails, they can do that by just logging onto the website and following the instructions. They appear on the front page. And whenever we have some updates, some news, current news, we can send those emails out automatically and update everyone as things happen. So just want to let you know about that, and thank you very much.
Thank you, Fran. As David Fann, our Public Works Director, as he's making his way up, just wanted to reiterate what Fran had talked about earlier about the email things on the website. That's something that we thought was active, and we found out recently it was not. We activated it, and we saw it in action. At least I did. I think a lot of y'all saw it. The council members saw it over the weekend with a lot of the changes in the water bans and stuff that has really proved to be an effective tool. So I encourage all the citizens to sign up for that at our website. David, why don't you share with us a couple things?
Thank you, Mr. Muir. A couple things I want to share with you is the situation last week with the water in the city of Fort Worth, and also talk briefly about some mosquito control. First of all, the situation with Fort Worth and the water main break, it was actually a 54-inch water main that the city lost last Thursday morning. We received this information at approximately 11 o'clock a.m. It was a 54-inch water main. If you can picture this main, it's actually 4.5 feet in diameter. So basically that feed fed everyone from 121 north and also east side of Jacksboro Highway. So basically what had happened is that the city of Fort Worth placed a mandatory outdoor watering ban on this particular area that I described. And this also included 12 wholesale customers, which includes Haltom City. And the city of Fort Worth was gravely concerned about our water because we were the closest to this particular main at the corner of 121 and Beach. However, we were not out of water, and I'll explain that here in a minute. The mandatory ban was actually lifted Friday afternoon at 5 o'clock when the city repaired the line and chlorinated the line, and it passed all their water samples. And so approximately 5 o'clock in the evening, I received a call from the city of Fort Worth saying that the water ban was off. Hallelujah. It's the weekend, and everybody wants to water and use water for whatever reasons on the weekend. But at approximately 6 o'clock that same evening, we got a call back from the city stating that the water ban was back on because there was a leak that occurred back at the same location. And fortunately, we hadn't put that information out yet, so we were fairly safe there. But all along, they were concerned about Haltom City, but they continued to provide us water. Then approximately at 7 o'clock on Saturday evening, we received a call from Fort Worth stating that they had repaired the leak, but to err on the side of caution that the water ban was still, the mandatory outdoor watering ban was in effect until 6 p.m. on Sunday evening. Now, when the city of Fort Worth provides a mandatory outdoor watering ban, all wholesale customers, at least those 12 cities, were also affected. We must adhere to what is in our contract, and if they do, the city of Fort Worth bans outdoor watering, then we must adhere to that. And what was so ironic about this whole situation is that the city of Fort Worth was putting in a booster station, a temporary booster station at the corner of Meacham and Beach at approximately the same time period. And we have been working with Fort Worth over the last several weeks to get ready, if you will, for this particular occasion. And they had scheduled to have water off at the corner of Beach and Meacham so they could prepare this transmission line Thursday and Friday of last week from 9 to 5. These transmission lines were 48 and 36 inches in diameter. So what does that mean? That means we were fortunate in that, in some respects, is that we were planning to be without water, so we had filled all of our storage to capacity to prepare for such an outage, a prepare outage of water. And then, of course, the 54-inch break also occurred. So we were very fortunate in that particular situation. And just to compare last year's water usage to this year, and then you can kind of have an example that we were prepared, and I think also our customers did, for the most part, help in banning their outdoor watering. There was 4 days that we were under this outdoor watering ban, and I was just going to give you millions of gallons that we had last year and millions of gallons that we got from Fort Worth this year during those 4 periods from 23rd of June to the 26th of June. For an example, last year on the 23rd of June, we received 6.4 million gallons of water from Fort Worth. And then this year on the 23rd, we received 8.1 million gallons of water. The 24th, 7.9 million in 04 and 9 million in 05. And Saturday, this time last year from Fort Worth, we received 7 million gallons. And this past Saturday, we received 9.2 million gallons of water. And then, of course, Sunday of this time last year was 4.7 million from Fort Worth. And yesterday, we received 8.5 million gallons of water from Fort Worth. Of course, we've got to keep in mind we also were not in drought conditions this time last year. But I also just want to say my hat's off to Fort Worth. It's kind of one of those things you're glad it happened in their city and not ours. But on the other hand, they also were very professional, and they worked that clock 24/7 with their crews, and they had a numerous amount of equipment. And also Mary G., can't say her last name, but everybody calls her Mary G., the public information officer of the city of Fort Worth, is outstanding. She communicated with not only myself from Haltom City, but surrounding wholesale water customers, and even expressed our concerns, ours being Haltom City's, on the TV, and my hat's off to her. So just kind of want to give you an update on what happened, and thanks to the customers for sticking with the outdoor watering ban. Have any questions about this past weekend? Mosquito control. I know it's that time of year and we receive calls, and I know with the one positive that we received in Haltom City a couple weeks ago, everybody's kind of on alert, or at least are concerned about mosquitoes. Just real quick, what we do and what we ask citizens to do in our community is this. But first of all, the mosquito became really on the forefront in 1999 when West Nile was first discovered in our country, in the U.S., in New York City. So from 1999 to 2005, they have found West Nile in every state, but I believe 4. So it's all over and it's rampant, and I know everybody has a real concern for that. But what can we do as citizens to avoid a problem with mosquitoes? And we always remember the 4 Ds, and I want to briefly just go over those for our citizens. Is not to be outside during the hours of dusk and dawn. And you want to minimize outdoor activity when mosquitoes are most active, particularly during those times. I know it's really tough at my house during those times. Not at dawn, because I'm usually not up at that time, but at dusk, if you're outside, it's pretty tough. Also, if you're outside and you have to be at these times, you want to dress appropriately with pants and long-sleeve shirts, and especially in mosquito-infested areas. DEET, it's a chemical that's in mosquito repellent. That's the 4th D that we ask you to wear at all times when you're outside. And this is especially true for children. You should have at least 30% of this chemical in the application for adults and 10% or less for children. And also, that's the 3rd one. The 4th one is drain. You also want to make sure that your property drains properly, and to avoid any standing water that you may have on your particular piece of property. So what is the city doing? We're actually doing several things. We're actually doing 4 things. We survey and we monitor the city and determine where the population levels are, and we try to identify each species. How do we do that? We actually go out and catch mosquitoes. We set up mosquito traps. I know y'all know this, but it's very important that we do this so we can identify if there's any positive West Nile mosquitoes in a particular area, which we did find one in the southern sector of our community. And then we'll know where we need to spray or to larvicide. We also try to have larval control and site reduction. With the addition of stormwater, we're beginning to process of eliminating standing water in our drainage areas throughout our community. I think we've been very successful. Obviously never quick enough this time of year, but we eliminated a lot of our standing water with our new stormwater program. Okay, what else are we doing? We're also spraying throughout the community. We have sprayed so far from 28th Street South and from Haltom Road East all the way up to Glenview, and we will continue to spray. We typically spray Monday through Thursday nights, weather permitting, and staff availability. We only have 3 gentlemen that are qualified to spray in our community. We try to spray Monday through Thursdays. We also put it on the website. Ms. Burns does a great job for us in posting that. For example, if we were spraying tonight, which we are not, she would have posted that and would have shown what sector of the community we would spray in. We actually have the 4 sectors identified on the website. And here again, we just want to reemphasize, as a citizen, what you can do on your property, in a nutshell, just to eliminate any type of standing water. With that, I'm glad to answer any questions you may have.
Questions or comments for Mr. Fain? Thank you, Mr. Fain, and Ms. Burns, for both of you for the information you've given. I got up Saturday morning and drove all over town and just looking at some of our projects that we have underway and seeing about the watering ban, and I was very pleased to see the cooperation by our citizens. Normally on Saturday morning you got water running everywhere. Only saw 2 sprinklers going, and all of the moving about I did that day. So my appreciation to the citizens of Haltom City for being aware of the need for water conservation at that critical point and for being cooperative with that process. We move now to item number 1 on the agenda, the Capital Improvement Status Report, a monthly status report given by our city manager.
Thank you, Mayor. Mayor and Council, as usual, I'll start with streets and the Jerry Lane project. The Jerry Lane project is actually moving very, very well. The underground utility construction is complete, and I think half the street is currently paved right now with concrete. We still got the other half, and obviously curb and gutter and driveway cutouts and sidewalks to do. But that is still on schedule. The Aurora Street project, that was recently awarded by the council. The sewer lines and the services have been completed, and the water line installation has been started as well. In drainage, the Little Fossil Creek Improvement Project, last month I shared with y'all some funding problems, some challenges with it, and there is some updates with it. I've been talking with Representative Granger's office. Just to recap, the project has been stopped due to a lack of funding from the Corps. The Corps lost their funding for this fiscal year, so the design has been halted. We've been working with Representative Granger's office to try and reinstitute that funding to keep the project going. We have not been able to do that. However, Representative Granger has put money in the funding bill for next year. She put $270,000 in there, so it's and she's optimistic that will go. But knowing the federal government, that could change as well in the process. But that puts the project about a year off. We are working with the Corps and with the private designer, Haltom Associates, to continue the project now to see if we could fund the project out of the funds that we've got for the project, out of the $4 million bond issue for this project, and then recoup it from the Corps later on. But we're working hard to try and get this thing back on track. This thing has just gone on too long. The citizens have been planning this has been in the works for 10, 15, 20, I'm not sure how many years, but an awful long time. I just hate to see it derailed for this, so we're continuing with that. And as things develop, I'll keep y'all advised. In water and sewer, there's a lift station replacement project that's was recently awarded by the council to replace a lot of lift stations and pumps and stuff throughout the city. That'll start here shortly and should be it's supposed to start by next month. A couple of water main projects are in design: the Menace water main project and the Denton Highway water main project, and they're obviously replacing water mains on those in those two areas. But those are things. The design is complete. We're dealing with easements right now. In the buildings, the rec center, last month I told you the rec center was open, and it's still open. There's a lot of kids over there, an awful lot of kids over there, and it's good to see an awful lot of kids there. We've still got an existing gym floor that we're still dealing with. The damaged floor has been yanked, but when they yanked it, they found additional standing water from the rains from over a year ago. So we're trying to dry out the floor to where we can put down the new floor, but that's going to take some time. Public Works has started today, I think. Didn't they start mobilizing today, getting the pipe and gear out there to lay the irrigation, and then once the irrigation is laid out, the landscaping will be in, so that should be done in a couple of weeks, maybe, yeah. But with the floors, the draining and the water damage in the floor, the additional water found on the floor, we're probably looking at early August now for that floor to be finished. But it's just another item to continue my frustration with that project. There just seems to be no end to the little things that can go wrong with that thing. Other than that, that's the end of the report. I'll take any questions.
Council Member Lanford?
Tom, I think you mentioned this, but I want to make sure that in case somebody had the same question I did, you were able to deduce that the water, the additional water that you found came from above and not from below.
Correct.
Yeah. Okay.
Correct. That's was trapped water underneath there that was not discovered until after they tore up the floor. But with the high humidity that we're having here and that we've typically experienced, it takes a while for that stuff to dry out.
It is good to see the recreation center moving forward to completion. I came by there this morning at 15 to 8, and there were 2 young men out front waiting for the doors to open. Looked like they were 9 or 10 years old, and so I know it's being used. I did a walkthrough on Friday afternoon, and that place was jumping.
That gym is awful crowded.
Yes,
that youth gym, and they really need that other gym opened up. But and we didn't announce it earlier, but this is the last week of the kids' summer camp. Is that what they're calling it, Fran? It's a camp summer program. It's from 9 to 11 for kids. But my son's over there helping out. But it is a seems like every kid in Haltom City is there, but I know it's not. There's an awful lot of kids over there, but they're having a ball.
Well, and that's what that's all about. And I'm looking forward, Mr. Fain, to getting the landscaping in. That's really going to make it look nice like our other new facilities here in Haltom City. So things are moving forward, and I appreciate that.
Well, certainly.
The consent agenda tonight consists of items number 2 and 3, the minutes, and then the second reading of an ordinance that we dealt with last time. This is considered to be self-explanatory and will be enacted by the council with one motion. I'm in line at this time for a motion regarding approval of the consent agenda. Councilmember Clark.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I make a motion we approve the consent agenda as written.
Councilmember Bransom.
That's for a second.
Have a motion and a second to approve the consent. There's no discussion, if you'll register your vote, I will display it at this time. And that carries by unanimous vote of the council present. You notice Councilmember Reese isn't with us tonight. We look forward to her being back at the next council meeting. Item number 4, a public hearing. Mr. Pliska, would you like to introduce this item?
Thank you, Mayor. Members of the council. This is the 5th rezone for 05, and it's ordinance number 2005-030-15. And the public hearing is to consideration and or action regarding the public hearing for approval of the first reading of this ordinance to rezone the property located at 4700 North Beach and being more fully described as Lot 1, Block 1, Bethesda Place Edition, in other words, Bethesda Church along Beach. This includes Lots 1 and 2, Block 1 of the Kane Edition as well, from Community Facilities District and the SF1 Single Family Residential District to the C3 Commercial District. Again, this is a staff-initiated and applicant-initiated rezone on this request. The site is zoned CF Community Facility and SF1 Single Family Residential. The applicant, as well as city staff, is requesting a zoning change from this CF Community Facilities District and the SF1 Single Family Residential District to the C3 Commercial District in order to bring the property into compliance with the city's zoning ordinance. This was triggered by existing school facilities and church facilities, but also new construction at the site. Again, this zoning change will require an amendment to the city's comprehensive land use plan, or the CLUP. At their meeting on June 14, 2005, the Planning and Zoning Commission voted unanimously to recommend approval of this zoning change request from the Community Facilities District and the SF1 Single Family Residential District to the C3 Commercial District and send it forward to the City Council for your approval.
Members of the council, any question for Mr. Pliska before I open the public hearing? I believe there are not. Thank you, Mr. Pliska. This being a public hearing, I open the public hearing at this time. Do we have any member of the audience who wishes to speak either for or against this request for rezoning that has just been introduced? Okay, there being none, I close the public hearing at this time. And members of the council, this is the first reading of this ordinance, and I'm in line for a motion regarding the wish of the council. Councilmember Sutton?
Thank you, Mayor. I'd like to move the approval of ordinance number O-2005-030-15.
Okay, have a motion to approve. Councilmember Holcomb?
That's a second.
Have a motion and a second to approve. If you will, if there's no further discussion, if you will register your vote. Okay. Item number 5 is very similar. It's the same piece of property, but it has another purpose. Mr. Pliska?
Thank you, Mayor. Members of the council, now that it is Zone C3, we're now going to pursue a conditional use permit for the private school portion of this facility. Again, this is consideration and action on a public hearing for a conditional use permit with site plan approval of Bethesda Community Church to allow for a private school in a C3 commercial zoning district on Lot 1, Block 1, Bethesda Place Edition, and on Lots 1 and 2, Block 1 of the Kane Edition. Again, this is located on the east side of North Beach Street and is locally known as 4700 North Beach. The site is currently zoned C3 and does not allow for a private school without a conditional use permit with site plan approval. Therefore, the applicant is seeking a conditional use permit with this site plan in order to allow for this use on the site. At their meeting on the June 14, 2005, the P&Z Commission voted unanimously to approve this conditional use permit, again with the site plan that is attached to this report. At that meeting, the Planning and Zoning, discussed parking issues, landscaping issues, and fire protection issues that have been addressed through city staff meetings and representation through this report. Some of the new construction for the school facilities and the new church facilities took up some additional parking that was discussed in the pre-hearing as well as the Planning and Zoning meeting. This parking, again, the parking situation at the church still meets the minimum requirements of the city's zoning ordinance. It's based on the number of people that are housed in the assembly area. Landscaping discussions, there was a concern of planning and zoning due to the fact of the amount of parking lot and the small amount of landscaping provided. However, Bethesda agreed to come up with a landscape plan and put in some additional landscaping with the new addition. Also, with staff meetings, fire protection was addressed, fire protection that does not exist at this time, but they will be laying new lines and will have some portions of the facility sprinkled for fire protection. So therefore, I formally submit this ordinance O-2005-02815 as well as this Exhibit A, the submitted site plan by the applicant.
Questions by the council for Mr. Pliska? Councilmember Lanford, and then Councilmember Sutton.
Is the fire protection addition that you talked about, is that applied to the school?
Yes.
Thank you.
Yes.
Councilmember Sutton.
Thank you, Mayor. What are the types of landscaping that the conditional use covers in this case?
Good question. Planning and Zoning, one of the commissioners was concerned that, of course, on the plan that you see tonight, they're saving some existing trees, but they didn't show any additional landscaping. But again, due to the enormous amount of the parking lot, they expressed a desire to kind of cool off the environment there and place additional trees with buffer-type islands in the parking lot. They agreed to do that, as well as submit a detailed site plan of the surrounding beds encircling the facility.
Will we have those specific details whenever we have the second reading of this?
No, sir. Those will be submitted before the finaling of the building itself.
I see.
And we'll handle that at the certificate of occupancy process.
Okay, thank you.
Any further questions for Mr. Pliska? Okay, there being none, I'll open the public hearing at this time on this application for a conditional use permit. As has just been explained, do we have anyone in the audience who wishes to speak either for or against this application for the conditional use? Okay, there being none, I close the public hearing, and I'm ready now for a motion regarding the wishes of the council on the approval of this ordinance. Councilmember Holcomb?
Move to approve ordinance number 0-2005-028-15, first reading.
Councilmember Hutchison?
That's for a second.
Have a motion and a second to approve. Do we have any discussion on the motion? If you will, register your vote. And that passes by unanimous vote. We come now to the Visitor Citizens Forums portion of our meeting, and this is a time set aside for any persons having business before the council that is not scheduled on the agenda to have an opportunity to speak to the council. We have two visitors' speakers' request forms that have been filled out. All comments that are made by these speakers must be directed toward the presiding officer rather than to an individual council member or staff. Each speaker must limit his or her comments to the subject matter listed on the speaker's request form and must refrain from personal attacks toward any individual. Presentations with prior notification will be limited to 6 minutes, and presentations without prior notification will be limited to 3 minutes. Council cannot discuss or debate any issue brought forth at this time, nor can any formal action be taken, since this is not a posted agenda item in accordance with the open meetings law. Our first speaker tonight, Ms. Linda Cantrell. Ms. Cantrell, if you will come forward, you wish to speak to us and to the citizens of the community on the subject of revitalization. If you'll give us your name again, please, and your address for the record.
Thank you. Linda Cantrell, 6208 Little Fossil Road. A couple of weeks ago at the council meeting, several people got up and talked about revitalization in the city and certain things that they would like to see happen. And I noticed that we've been talking about the library and the bond thing that happened 4 years ago and how much money's there and how much it's going to take, and that there's negotiations going on for a particular piece of property. When researching the TAD records, I noticed that the city of Haltom City has a lot of property that they already are in control of, and I'm wondering if possibly we shouldn't consider what we already have, and that could be considered part of the revitalization that you want to see on Belknap Street. There's a lot of pieces of property that the city owns on Belknap Street, as are some of the adjacent city streets. And as far as the beautification committee goes, they might want to think about the old Barbrook Park. I understand that the city now has control of that. And since that's at the east entrance to the city, that would certainly be a way to start your revitalization. Adjacent to that is the Birdville Cemetery, and I recently took a tour of that. There's 3 historical markers there, and there's like 16 Civil War veterans buried there. And although that's a private cemetery, it's adjacent to property that the city already owns. So I think that possibly we need to do a little research into what the city already has, and some of these vacant lots, like on Belknap, that would not be suitable because of their size for, say, a library. Possibly we need to market these to new companies coming in, give them a discount on the price, but income for the city also, plus that would bring in new businesses. And I think somebody needs to actively be pursuing these types of things. As far as I know, we have the Economic Development Commission, board, whatever you call it, but I haven't seen any real action on them in trying to get people come to this city to open new businesses. I haven't seen any city official doing that, or haven't heard a report of it. So if we want to revitalize the city, we need to figure out a way. Maybe you need to create a commission or a board to do that. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Cantrell, for your comments. Our second speaker tonight is Mr. Bill Jornay, who wishes to speak to us on the subject of the school bond election. Mr. Jornay, your name and address for the record, please.
Thank you, Mayor and Council. My name is Bill Jornay, 4529 Nadine, Haltom City. It's true. We can teach Fido to fetch, speak, roll over, shake hands, all these tricks, and he may or may not do them well. Nor does this make Fido a smart dog. If we take Fido a few short miles away from home and turn him loose, it's not likely he'll find his way back home. Or take him to a park where other dogs are, and consequently he'll behave no differently than other dogs. He may or may not respond favorably to, quote, train commands. All these tricks we have taught Fido has not made him a smart dog. You know, the same is true with folks. How many people with a high school education or, quote, academic skill like Fido do we know who can't find their way away from thankless, rewardless fast food or warehouse jobs, if they have a job at all, thanks to our world trade and present Mexican slave trade? And our jobless numbers for citizens are ever growing. All of us who have a degree of success or just the intellect of a bucket of ice cubes know someone, or maybe a few someones, with a degree or skill attached who for some reason don't got the brains that God gave a goose. Some, were it not for mom and dad, would hit the ground and the cat would gobble them up. Seems as if those tricks or skills our masters and teachers have taught us has paid off, similar to Fido's education, except ours costs much more. Are our graduates truly ready for today's world? Really? With both Israeli and Muslim world highly protesting the present war brought on by global economy and a one world order, with so many people all over the world neither appreciating this war over global greed, many are surprised and dismayed that our schools, our, quote, independent schools, will put a positive spin on greed and avarice, even above creationism. Indeed, we cannot serve God and mammon, can we? But then, what is the purpose of an education or the worth of a graduate today when our government and its lobbyists control both the teachers and what they teach? How do we define independent, yet cave into this behavior? Should our leadership bow to mammon, greed, avarice? We are a powerful nation because of our principles of peace and freedom. We should never compromise these principles for power and finance. One with a full education should be able to survive well in any element or environment. Peace and freedom, power and finance. These are two ideologies and not the same. Being raised with Christian morals and decency, our good students become somewhat a hydra, not knowing how to behave when church and family have one example and present educators and leaders display another. Or how long before business and government will need more illegals to, quote, spurn our economy, rendering our present education system inadequate? If passed, will the figure we accept be the last we see before completion? Enough is never enough when greedy monkeys run our circus. We should be very aware of the Judas kiss of a well-educated political lobbyist and their self-serving agendas. With all that money floating loosely at the top, we have much more serious problems than floating even more tax dollars to the top. I see this present bond proposal not as an example of good leadership, but a warning of how greed and self-importance can and does become even the most well-meaning among us. What else do we have planned for the future of our children? Our dignity? That is gone. I'll say no more about it. Light lies the earth over the ashes of America's pride. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Jornet. We move now to item number 6, resignations of board members. Do we have anyone? Yes, Councilmember Sutton.
Thank you, Mayor. Greg Van Nunes has submitted a resignation letter, which is in the city secretary has in her possession. I'd like to move to ratify that resignation.
You've heard the recommendation from the Mayor Pro Tem regarding the resignation. If you would register your vote regarding your wishes for ratification of that resignation. And it is a unanimous vote to ratify. Do we have any other resignations? Okay, what about appointments? No appointments. We move then to item number 8. The charter requires when a member of the council is absent for the members of the council who are present to take a look at that absence and make a decision whether or not to excuse Councilmember Hutchison, I believe you had your light on first.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Mayor. I move that we excuse the absence of Ms. Reese from the council meeting tonight.
Okay, and Councilmember Bransom.
Second, Mayor.
Okay, we have a motion and a second to excuse the absence of Councilmember Kim Reese. If you will, register your vote. And it is a unanimous vote. Well, ladies and gentlemen, this has been a short meeting tonight. There are no executive session items for us to pursue. So the time is 7:40, and having said all of that, council taking all of this action, we stand adjourned.